Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. First off, just want to say apologize that we've been irregular for a week or two. We've been under the weather. Our son brought something home from school, got tested. It's not COVID, thank goodness. But we've all just been feeling a little puny, so we haven't been vlogging. Anyways, we are back. Starting to feel better. And I had a topic I wanted to cover. We've talked about this area of things before, but I wanted to kind of dive a little deeper. And what I want to talk about is how to make money with reptiles, okay? And I'm talking about like ethical ways, right? Not so much, we are not in favor of poaching, in case anybody wondered, or smuggling, right? But there's a lot of ways to make money with reptiles, and I think people who watch our channel might get the impression, if for some reason we were the only reptile channel you watch, which isn't the case since we're not a very big channel and there's some massive reptile channels out there, but if you're just looking at us, you might think, oh, you buy ball python morphs and you breed them and then you sell the babies, right? That's how you make money with reptiles. Well, yes, that's a great way to make money with reptiles, but there's a lot of ways, and I mean a lot, and we're going to talk about as many of them as we can. Some of them I'm literally just going to list. We have a big old chart. It's got like people's names on it and stuff, so we're not going to show it to you, but I'm going to be like literally reading a list of things that are ideas. We don't do all of these things by any means. There's dozens and dozens of items here. But I just feel like some people might really want to get into reptiles on a larger scale and turn it into a side hustle or even, a small business like we're doing. But they don't really resonate with, just buy a bunch of ball python morphs and breed them and sell them, right? That's not what they want to do. So I want to talk about as many ideas as I could, kind of rapid fire, and you guys can take it or leave it, whatever interests you. I always have to give this disclaimer when we talk about this kind of thing. Yes, I like money, okay? I'm not apologizing for that. We love reptiles, and we love money. Money helps the world go round. Money keeps us in a house. Money gets us the food we need, right? There is nothing wrong with earning money, earning a living, right? There's nothing wrong with using your reptile collection to earn you money. The only wrong things come about when you're neglecting your animals, when you're not taking proper care of them. They don't get enough exercise, or something in their husbandry is off because you're cheap. You're cutting corners because of too much love of money, right? Those are the problems. But in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing wrong with earning a living doing what you love with reptiles, right? So that out of the way, let's begin. First off, let's talk about breeding and all the different ways that breeding reptiles can make you money, right? Because ball python morphs are extremely valuable, right? That's where the majority of our income from the reptile business comes from, right? But there are other things. There's other species. There's things about the scale that we could talk about. So real briefly, you can breed a lot of reptiles for less expensive and fill that niche. People who are entry-level hobbyists, people who are first-time pet owners with reptiles. There's tens of thousands of these people, right? You can just take a zillion albino ball pythons and breed them and make a zillion more and sell them all for a few $100, and you can make good money, right? I once heard maybe a YouTube video, but someone interviewing Marcus Jane, huge breeder in Canada, and Marcus Jane Reptiles, right? His name is Marcus. I don't remember. Anyways, Marcus Jane Reptiles, great dude, incredible snakes. And he just was talking about this. He's like, it's not that complicated. I figure if I can produce 1,000 babies a year, and my average sale price is around $300, that's $300,000 of income, right? And of course there's overhead, heating the facility and feeding the snakes, and if there's an employee or something. But even if half of your money goes to overhead, you just made yourself $150,000. You are set, right? That's a good career. That's a great career, right? And I just heard him say that, and it was so simple, and I was like, yeah, That makes sense to me, right? So if you're selling relatively inexpensive animals, several $100s seems like a lot to some people, but in the animal world, a couple $100 for an animal really isn't very much. But you're producing a lot of them, 1,000 plus animals, viable business model right there. Okay, never have to mess with anything except ball pythons if you don't want. You can go the opposite direction. You can produce 100 babies, but your average sale price is, $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 each. You're going to be doing a lot less work as far as breeding and feeding and cleaning animals goes. You might have to do a lot more work marketing and working with people because your customer base is smaller. There's not as many people buying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 snakes. There's plenty of them. You can do that, but you're shifting your workload from husbandry and breeding, which will be relatively minor when you're only producing 100 snakes, to the people side of things. So if that's your strength, is marketing and putting yourself out there and branding yourself and making your product pop in the public eye, then that's a great business model too. All of those literally just revolve around ball pythons if you want to, but you could do super dwarfs. We got this little girl, her name's Cassie. She's a pure, 100% pure Kayuwadi super dwarf, and we got her from Reach Out Reptiles. He is a specialist, okay? Garrett Hartle, seriously, a specialist in super dwarf retics, okay? Produces these incredible quality, captive bred, super dwarf retics. Every locality that exists, he's trying to get his hands on. That's his passion, right? And he's not breeding thousands and thousands of these things, but his business is doing great because he has kind of zoned in on his specialty. So it doesn't have to be ball pythons. If your thing is leopard geckos, if your thing is small monitors, if your thing is hog noses or something a lot more rare even, there's people in every niche of the reptile world, right? And you specialize in, if that's what you want to do, make sure that your average sale price is really high so that you don't have to produce tons and tons and tons of animals. It's another way that breeding snakes or lizards or reptiles of whatever sort can make you a career, right? Can make you money. All right? Now, breeding reptiles is not the only way to sell reptiles for a living. Some of these things get more controversial. There are importers, people who are catching reptiles, or usually they have, locals who will catch them and then they buy them up cheap from them and then they bring them into the US and they resell them, okay? The ethics of that can get dicey. In theory, there's a place for that, but many, many people are a little bit uncomfortable with that whole business model, right? And I understand why. This puts a lot of pressure on wild populations. At the same time, if you don't establish a captive population, it can be very difficult to keep up the wild population because there's no competition from that. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. That's not the point of this video, but that's another way people make money with selling the reptiles themselves, is becoming an importer, right? And a lot of them will specialize in a certain area of the world. You'll have someone who imports from Indonesia or from, West Africa or wherever it is, the Amazon. Anyway, you get a lot more problems with, CITES permits changing, animals getting added onto, CITES 1, for example. You're just out of luck. But regardless, that's a way to be selling reptiles where you're not a breeder, right? You're selling wild-caught animals. Another way, you can become a wholesaler, right? Where you will go mostly to local providers of reptiles, local producers, right? Breeders who are close to you, and you buy their animals up on a wholesale price, right? Because you're buying in bulk, and then you resell them, okay? A lot of people do this. A lot of breeders do this as well to supplement their stock of reptiles so they don't run out of inventory, right? And man, I know there are people out there who hear me saying the word inventory as regarding these live animals, and that just gets their blood boiling. I promise you, I do not think of my animals as inventory, an item on the shelf to restock when it runs out. I promise you, that is not my mindset at all. And I disagree with people who that is their mindset, okay? But if your business is selling reptiles, you have to use some sort of word. You don't want to run out of inventory if you're a store, right? Otherwise, you're not a store anymore. You're just empty shelves. So, you have to make these business-minded decisions if you're trying to earn money, right? So if you're unwilling to resell animals, then you need to be breeding enough of them that you always have some available. All right, but that's why people do resell animals. They buy them up wholesale and then they sell them off again for a marked up price, so they make a profit, right? All of those things revolve around selling the actual reptiles themselves to make money, right? But there are a heck of a lot of other ways people make money. Really, really, really rare, but also potentially very profitable, would be social media. There are 5 to 10 just titans, massive, massive YouTube followings, Instagram, wherever, who they make a significant chunk of money from social media, right? I would not recommend assuming that that's going to happen for you. If you're like, I want to make money with reptiles, I'll start a YouTube channel. It can be great advertising for your reptiles. It can be a good way of connecting with people. But generally speaking, you're not going to make, unless you're already a successful YouTuber and you know the ropes, jumping in and thinking, oh, that's a good revenue stream for me. It probably isn't, okay? I got to put that out there. But at the same time, if you're certain that you've got what it takes and that you can make it happen, go for it. It's free to start a YouTube channel, right? There's no harm in it. And at the very least, you're sharing your passion for these animals with other people. So I'm not saying don't do social media. We do plenty of social media. But we don't expect it to be like profitable financially, directly profitable, I should say. We have, tracked many sales through social media, where people found us because of our social media. But as far as the revenue, AdSense and things like that, and sponsorships and what's it? The thing everyone seems to do now, Patreon. Don't bank on that being a huge moneymaker for you. Some other things that people might even think less about. Dry goods. If your little local spot, your community, has come to know you as a good reptile spot, you might consider selling some dry goods. Pick a couple lines of lights, substrate. I'm going to actually read a list here, so I apologize for not looking in the camera. We've written down lighting, heat options, whether that be ceramic bulbs, under tank pads, radiant heat panels, things like that. Substrates of all sorts, hides, water bowls, all the different types of caging, the fake plants and vines and things, or reptile-safe live plants and vines. If you want to get into racks, I know a lot of people do, custom racks and things like that, and enclosures. Merch, plaster your reptiles on a shirt or a hat or a jacket or whatever and sell that kind of stuff. All the feeders, whether it's insects, crickets and worms and roaches and all that sort of stuff, or rodents, or even more rare things. If someone were to come out with a really good high production lizard that was a feeder item, geckos or anoles, all that sort of thing. My list goes on, but you see what I'm saying? All those sorts of things can really add revenue if that's what you're looking to do. You've gotten kind of a name for yourself as the spot for reptiles, and now someone can come get their baby corn snake from you, and the cage, and the pinky mice, and the substrate, and the light, and all that sort of stuff. You obviously, you had to buy all those things, but you're reselling them for a marked up price. You are just... that's free money, right? You attached all these other items that the person's like, oh, I can get everything from my local expert here, my snake person, and I can just get everything from them. You'll make some sales. Again, though, all of these types of things, you've got to really promote yourself and sell yourself a lot to become known for, I'm the spot for all of these accessories to reptile keeping. One thing that I've heard kind of both extreme ends of the spectrum on, as far as, selling reptiles, some people will say, Don't go chasing all the hot species and the hot morphs and all these things. Just zone in on your one thing that you're the best at, that you're known for, and don't diversify too far, because you're gonna if you try and do everything, you're gonna end up getting nothing done. Okay, I get that, but a lot of people will say, well, my ball pythons mostly all lay their eggs in the summer. They have their babies hatching in the fall, and I sell real well for the fall and winter, and then I'm out of eggs and babies for half the year. And it stinks when I have this massive burst of revenue and then it kind of tapers off for most of the year. I'd rather have a diverse collection where I have different species whose reproductive cycle is at different parts of the year, so that I have things available and I'm not running out of animals. I know I talked about that a minute ago, but the type of animal you keep and the diversity of species you keep is going to affect that greatly. The other argument in favor of a more diverse collection is that very, very, very rarely are you going to break into the upper echelon for a given species. We all wish we could be, Justin Kabilka of the ball pythons or Kevin McKierley of the water monitors, but most of the time you're not going to be the top dog. If you want to draw the maximum number of eyes from the reptile community at large to your spot, the more species you do, the better your business is going to do, because you're bringing in more interest from a more diverse group of reptile keepers. For example, more than a quarter, and I kid you not, more than a quarter of our YouTube viewership comes from the Philippines, because we keep and make videos about Philippine sailfin dragons. And we get comments from the Philippines. We get people emailing us from the Philippines, calling us from the Philippines. And it's awesome. It's incredible to me that I'm in Alaska making hundreds of connections to people from the Philippines, because we keep a species that they see all the time. It's iconic for them, and they're like, wow, this person in Alaska has these. I can get those for $5. I can go outside and catch one in my garden. But all I mean is, you're going to draw eyes to your business if you are diverse, more easily than if you only do one thing. Even though we make a majority of our sales in ball pythons, a ton of those people found us because they came across our Eastern Indigo video, or a tree monitor video, or an unboxing video of something, and that later on, when they were looking for a ball python, they came to us because they knew of us, they'd seen us on camera, they thought of us, we popped up in their mind. We had drawn those eyeballs, right? So diversity in your collection isn't only so that you can have a super cool, fun collection to look at, it's also good for business in that way. But there's arguments for both sides of that, so I'll leave that up to you. I'm just telling you, this whole video is supposed to be ways to make money with reptiles, right? Experiences. A lot of people in business, not the reptile world necessarily, but just in business in general, will talk about subscriptions. Things where people are paying money, but nothing of yours, no physical good is going out the door. Right? They're not buying an item that you don't ever get to sell again. They're buying an experience that you can sell again and again and again and again, right? So how's this relevant to the reptile world? Well, if you are willing to take your cool, diverse collection of reptiles out and about and do little, it doesn't have to be massive expos, but just little local shows where people might pay $2, or you might even just have a collections jar for donations. Birthday parties. We've done events with scout troops and stuff, and you don't charge thousands of dollars, but $100, $150 for a group of people to get an experience with reptiles that there's just no chance in the world they were ever going to get to see otherwise. People will pay. I mean, we've been blown away by the interest from people who want to. Now, during a pandemic, that's not as viable, but most of the time in the world, doing parties and events can be very profitable. You take like an hour out of your day and pocket $150. Most of us don't make $150 an hour. That's pretty profitable. So think about that. If you're a people person, if you like kids and you enjoy seeing, especially kids, learn about and get interested in reptiles, that can be a great revenue stream. I know people who do 4 or 5 of these shows a week. They're making $500, $600 a week doing parties and stuff like that. That's pretty awesome. Obviously, you can go larger scale. You know, we organized the expo a year and a half ago, and we'll hopefully do one again this year. And that can be very profitable if you do it right. You know, if you market it well and a lot of people come, things like that. But there's other experiences. You know, a lot of big reptile keepers end up with some sort of zoo experience, right? A lot of them do, and not all of them advertise it as heavily as you know, Brian Barczyk or Prehistoric Pets or even like Snake Discovery, but not everyone has massive subscriber counts like they do either. But a lot of people do very well, just getting people in the door so that they can go in and experience reptiles in some way. It's not all going to be a petting zoo type experience. You know, you don't want people necessarily petting your crocodilians or whatever. But if people can, you know, just feed something or get a picture with something or hold a snake for the first time, you can make a zoo experience work. Again, that's a big deal. We're talking, you need a premise, you need a lot of things to go very well for you to make that happen. But if that's your dream, if that's the side of things you want to do, it can earn you good money. The common thread throughout all of these things that I've talked about so far is that you gotta work your tail off. There's no alternative to that. You can't just hire a consultant to build you a business plan and then hire an employee to make it all happen. You must work your absolute tail off, or none of these things will work for you. You will not make significant money at anything that I have talked about if you personally are not just killing yourself off working hard. And if that isn't appealing to you, that's okay. That doesn't make you lazy. If you don't think to yourself, I want to work 80 hours a week, mostly cleaning up snake poop. If that's not your dream, that does not make you a lazy person, right? That's a rare breed of person who gets excited about this life, right? And that's okay. You know, I have absolutely no interest of being a concert pianist. I would love to learn how to play the piano, but I'm not going to put in that kind of work to be a concert pianist. It's not going to happen. Or an Olympic gymnast. I'd love to be athletic and ripped, but I'm not going to be putting in that kind of work. That's not my passion, right? But that is really the thread. If you want to do any of these things, it's going to mean an insane amount of work. Especially if you want to do it right. If you want your animals to be happy and healthy and thriving, and if you want your customers of whatever sort, whether they're just buying pinky mice from you, or an experience in your zoo, or they're buying a $5,000 high-end combo super dwarf retic from you, whatever it is, you will have had to work extremely hard to make all of that happen, and happen well, where everyone is happy and healthy during and after the whole process. So, there's other things, but this is kind of dragging on, and I really wanted to talk about how you can make money with reptiles. You can even make a lot of money with reptiles. There is an unbelievable pressure from a lot of people, even within the hobby, saying that you can't. I mean, they really are. That's what they're saying, that you can't. Well, what they mean, I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but they have reasons for saying what they're saying, but I completely disagree. I'm looking at dozens, hundreds of people, thousands of people making money with reptiles, and then all these naysayers like, you can't make money with reptiles. I'm like, well, what about those thousands of people? What are they? Are they a figment of my imagination? No. They're making money. They did what it took, and it's working, right? Even through a pandemic that's crushed the economy, they're still making money. The reptile world and the exotic animal world and the regular animal world is resilient. It has proven very strong, and you can make money with reptiles. And man, I hate hearing people just trying as hard as they can to crush everyone's dreams just because theirs didn't work out. You know, and I do think that's what it comes down to a lot, is it didn't work for them. So they think, well, then no one can do it. That's not true. You do need to catch some lucky breaks, of course, but you also need to be willing to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. We don't watch TV. Did you know that? We don't watch TV, ever, period. And we can't. There's no time. we are working on our animals, and we're not willing to have it be a sacrifice on our children, our young kids. We're not going to neglect them in order to make this dream happen. So we've had to neglect pretty much all of our hobbies and our downtime. That's what's gotten cut, right? And that's what it took for us. And now we're only halfway there, you know. We're not all the way there, but we are making money with reptiles. I'm not just saying this because I hope it's true. I'm saying this because I know it's true. We have made and continue to make money with a reptile business. And we are just a small little breeder in Alaska. And if we can do it, anybody can do it. In any place, at least in this country. I guess I can't speak for other countries. I don't know how the markets work in other parts of the world. But in this country, you can do it. You just can. So that is my... it's not really a rant. Hopefully this was a positive thing. But my spiel on, you know, earning a living with reptiles. Just that it can be done. There's diverse ways to do it. You can play to your strengths. If you are introverted, you just love your animals, you want to go down in your snake room and work your butt off and breed a bunch of animals, you don't want to do anything with people, you could probably find a wholesaler that you have come to trust and just sell your animals to them. And never worry about public interface whatsoever, if that's really what you want. I think in most cases you'd regret it, because some of the experiences you have getting new people into the hobby and that personal interaction where somebody has never even held a snake before and then they came to your place and they did, that is a boost for me, and I am definitely not an extrovert. But that's why I wanted to make this video, just to open your horizons so you can see that there's so many ways to make this happen, and that is all. I hope that somebody out there will see this someday and decide to go for it and make it happen. But even if you don't, it at least lets you see into my mind a little bit how I think about the hobby and why we're doing it. And yeah, that is my topic for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.